And
Hello.
we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Drummers Education Connection. This is episode 100. This is a really big deal. This is so cool. I am here with four amazing drummers up in San Francisco. Jeremy Steinkohler, the Steamroller, Chip Ritter in Tucson,
Hello.
Arizona, the Ritter Splitter. And then over in San Diego, we got Rick Stojak and the great Gene Hoglan. Gene,
Gene
how are you?
Hoglan.
And welcome back to the deck.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Congratulations on episode number 100. That's amazing.
Thank
Way to
you.
go,
Isn't
guys.
this cool, man? Isn't this fantastic?
Absolutely, man.
You
Big
know, I
congrats from the entire Hoglan community to you guys. Absolutely.
That's so cool. It's really kind of cool. Well, first of all, before I get into this, today was supposed to be our guest was supposed to be David Garibaldi, and he had something come up, and unfortunately he had to back out of doing the episode today. And so, lucky for us, our friend Rick Stojak, his brother-in-law, is Gene Hoglan. He says, "Hey, I'll contact Gene," and I think we all said, "Perfect." This is his second time on the deck, so we want to thank him for that. So 100 episodes, man, this is huge. During COVID, I was out hiking with my wife Leah, and we were out in the mountains of Fullerton hiking around because there was nothing else to do. And I get a phone call from Chip, and he says, "Hey, I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do something." So the Drummers Education Connection was born, and here we are, episode 100. Enough of me yakking. Let's get into this thing. Gene, welcome back. I'm gonna start. Here's my question for you. Today, before you came on, I was watching your episode on Drumeo. Gene, when you're up there on Drumeo playing,
Okie doke.
and you're a self-taught drummer. Do you read at all?
No, God, I'm the most illiterate drummer on the planet, I tell you.
The reason I'm asking, man, I was watching the Drumeo episode, and some of your left footwork on the double bass really reminded me of some of the exercises in the Joe Franco book. So I was wondering if you had gone through the book, just kind of like, hey, man, I wonder if Gene ever played through that book because some of your stuff you're doing there. What do you attribute your left foot to? What did you? Your foot speed. What did you do to develop all that?
God, going back to my teen years, it was just play as fast as you can. And that was really it. I am definitely from the my main mantra back then was I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. When it came to double bass speed or anything like that, just play as fast as you can and try to be as solid as you can. And I guess probably the whole reason why I'm a left foot lead when it comes to most double bassings is like when you don't have a double bass, when you got the single kick and you haven't developed any kind of like on single
Mhm.
kick where it's doing the kind of 16th or 30-second notes, whatever you want to call them. You're doing the kind of, you can see my legs sort of kind of, where they're just doing single notes. You start it with your left, and you get that you get the kick on the off. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of where it all started. When I was trying to play double bass, it's only a single kick, and it was just kind of thing. So that's
Yeah.
where kind of some of the left feet. But I seriously taught my any kind of exercise out there that it looks like I'm doing. It's something I realize that everything I'm sure everything I do has already been done before, but in my brain, I'm the first person I know doing the majority of my stuff because I don't read, I don't pay attention to who's out there doing things. So I've always tried to be my own creator, my own content creator, kind of, I guess.
Right on.
That's huge, and I think I remember last time we talked when you're on here, you talked about how you did take a drum lesson or something like that, and a drum teacher told you, "Well, you can't play like this. You can't play open-handed. You're supposed to play like this." And your style is so. That's what it is. That open-handed thing where you can fit so much in with your right hand. Being your own creator has obviously served you phenomenally well.
Oh,
So,
excellent. Very cool.
yeah, good for you. Good for you.
Thank you.
You bet. Chip, you look like you had a question. You're about ready to say something. I
I
stepped
was
on you.
I
Sorry.
was just gonna say back in the day, remember being introduced to Gene Hoglan's drumming, and the first question I had in my mind was, "What does that guy eat for breakfast?"
And where can I get me some of that?
And the other thing it was that you played in combat boots, I guess, and had friends of mine told me that you had ankle weights and that you trained with your feet like that. Is any of that true?
Oh, it's all true. I still play in boots when a lot of the time. I use ankle weights during every time I play the drums for the most part. I just did a gig over the weekend and I did the entirety of the gig with ankle weights, maybe I popped them off for the last song kind of thing.
And those ankle weights are so heavy, I can't even pick them up. And Gene has one on each leg, so this guy's got some leg strength. No doubt.
When you're playing with the ankle weights, again, back to the video I was watching this morning, you look like you have a lot of ankle motion in there. It's not full leg. Is that correct? Do you feel like your feet also slide on the pedals a bit?
I'm definitely, I move all around the pedals. I move all around the sticks as well. The sticks are constantly going back and forth in my hand. I try to keep everything pretty subtle, and my feet are all over the pedals totally. If I'm doing these days, I guess when I'm doing some hauling double bass, I root my heel. I'm heel down when I play fast double bass.
Really? No kidding.
Yeah. Every single speedy anything you hear me doing where it's just that's all ankle down, heel down kind of thing.
Wow.
But that is a relatively recent introduction, over the past 10 or 15 years that I started doing that, because I was always a heel up player for everything. And so if I'm doing any kind of double bass that or any kind of drumming that isn't speed related, I'm churning the legs. But I've never had a lot of leg movement. It's like, even though I'm churning the legs, I mean, my ankles, I mean, my knees are traveling very little. I mean, you can see how much this legs, you can barely see my hand moving, but that's essentially as much as my legs move. I've always had a lot of power from my extremities. So you could snap that ankle and make it really loud without putting an overt amount of effort into it.
What kind of beaters do you use? Do you use wooden, plastic, felt? What do you play?
I use the same wood beaters that I have for almost. I've had these beaters for 34 years now, and they were probably 5 years old when I got them. I use the same beaters. There's the old Danmar, little cherry red. They're just perfect beaters, and they travel with me. They travel with me everywhere. So yeah, I've just used the exact same beaters for 38 years now, since I got my first pair of Camcos, and these are the two beaters that came with those Camcos.
Wow, that's something else, man.
Is this
that's
mic
amazing.
working yet? Is this mic working? No.
So
yeah, we can hear that a little bit.
You can hear it a little bit.
Yeah.
We're sharing mics here. A couple technical difficulties. Gene, also, you've mentioned that you incorporate your toes into your kick drum playing too. That's part of it, which I thought that was so interesting.
Well, it's kind of, yeah, man. It's kind of like we all use our fingers quite a bit. Our fingers are a big part of. It's not just a caveman grip on a stick. I just kind of applied that same sort of thing to my toes. It's like you can do some digging in. You can get your toes waggling to get in there, and like I definitely, I guess I am not sure how other double bass drummers approach it, but there are elements of balance. As you're balancing yourself, there are a lot of times when it's like I've got to balance the inner portion of my foot to get this part together of either foot, or sometimes you're dropping that balance out to the outer edge, your small toes kind of thing. And that's what my toes are spreading as I'm speaking about this. Yeah. Cause they're just like automatic. What's up, boss? Okay. Well, we got to get to work here kind of thing. Yeah. So That's what's going on here. So, yeah, man, my toes are ready. Ready for
So
action. at all times.
your toes talk to you. Oh, now we're muted. I tell a joke and Rick unplugs the microphone.
They're muted, man.
Yeah. Hey, Rick, I would say just plug in the microphone and just use the one mic because you're muted right now, man. I think you unplugged whatever it is that you had going. So anyway, for those of you guys who, Gene Hoglan, Rick's trying to get some technical stuff worked out there. Gene's
There he
played with
goes.
there he is, so many great metal bands. Testament, how long were you in Testament? And you recently left. Can you talk to us about why you left the group?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I was playing with Testament since very, very late 2011. And in summer of 2011, they had Chuck Billy, their vocalist, had reached out and said, "Hey, we have Paul Bostaff as our drummer, but right now he's got a reoccurring injury that has just kept him sidelined quite a bit longer than we've all been expecting or hoping for. We've got a deadline for our latest project, our latest album. We got a completion deadline that we need to hit. Can we have can we hire you up to come on in and play on our latest record?" And the windows of availability worked out great. So I was able to track their album at the time was Dark Roots of Earth. So that was 2011, released in 2012. So yeah, I spent 10 years playing with the Testament guys there. And really what the whole reason for my departure was, we couldn't really make things work in their schedule and my schedule. During the pandemic, I just booked. It's like, okay, I'm booking for 2021. Oh, 2021 isn't going to happen. Everything just gets kind of rolled over to 2022. And of course, that's when the entire kind of world opened up, and Testament needed a drummer that they could that they could just rely on to be for every show. That's what they needed. So I'm like, hey man, well, it's been great, guys, man. Just you guys will get somebody really good. You guys are going to be fine, and I'm going to be great. So, no worries. And we're still pals. I went to go see him a couple of months back when they came through town here. And yeah, man, best of luck to Testament and best of luck to my replacement, Mr. Dave Lombardo. Best of luck to everybody. Absolutely.
Right on.
That's fantastic. That's
Gene,
great.
Gene, so what projects are you doing now? I know there's so many, and we're going to be seeing a lot of Gene Hoglan in the coming years. So could you tell us a little bit about what to look for?
Yeah, man.
What's going on now?
Well, let's see. Last week, I guess, a week and a half ago or so, I completed tracking the new Death Clock album. And Death Clock has a movie coming out next year, so that's going to be massive. And the album is going to be massive. And I'm sure there'll be some touring involved with that. I'm also writing the new Dark Angel album. I play more guitar than drums as I've just grown. As a drummer, I'm okay. As a guitarist, I rip. So there you go.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, man. And there's just a ton of projects coming up. Mostly in the 2023 area. I'm sure we'll be doing some more Death to All touring, which is our death tribute band, which, the two albums that I was involved with Death, Individual Thought Patterns and Symbolic. Well, I guess all of Death's catalog has become pretty classic, pretty iconic over the years. So getting to get out and represent the entire Death catalog, that's been a blast. And it's with two other gentlemen that, Mr. Steve DiGiorgio and Mr. Bobby Coble. Both guys are deeply involved in the Death heritage, recording and all that stuff. So it's just a total blast getting out to be able to play death music. And Dark Angel will be having a number of shows. And like I say, there's going to be some Death Clock stuff. And at the end of either 2023 or the beginning of 2024, I'm going to have there's going to be an album release that I am a part of that is going to be absolutely amazing, incredible. It is an all-star project, and can't say too much about it right now, but it is also one of the greatest albums that I've been a part of, and I'm really excited for that one too. So, and then there's a million things coming up that I don't even know about yet. Because there's always something that pops up like, hey man, we need you right now. Can you come out and do this tour with this band? You have 7 hours to learn their set and be on a plane in the morning. I'm sure there'll be a time or two in the next year where that sort of scenario occurs. So there's tons.
You
know what?
you spoke about that before, Gene, when you have to learn stuff really quick, right? Like you just said, you got 7 hours to learn 12, 15 songs, right?
Sure.
And man, and these songs, we're talking about speed metal. We're talking about songs that aren't short little, verse chorus things. These are in-depth songs. How do you go about doing that? Like you said, you don't read and stuff like that. How do you go about doing that? How do you absorb all that? What's your thing?
Usually it's kind of my system these days is kind of like I'll get the set list from whoever it is, and chances are those are downloadable tracks, streamable tracks. I'll go through their set list real quick. I'll go through each song. Like if it's a band I'm familiar with, then great. I already know a lot of their material and I know what is in my wheelhouse kind of thing.
Mhm.
But if it's a band that I'm not super familiar with, and these can be big arena size bands, I still might not be familiar with their material. So I'll go through their material super quick. I'll listen to each song or the majority of each song just for brevity's sake, and just go, okay, got it. Okay, next song. Got it. This part. Oh, this part right here. Ooh, little tricky. Okay, come back to that. You're going to have to take a moment. Got it. Third song. Got it. Oh, that end. Okay, make sure, that kind of thing. I just jab them into my brain through memorization. And I've been accused of having a steel trap mind when it comes to music. So, it's just my interest in music. And it's also my interest in representing your project the way you guys need it to be, that kind of drives the old brain there to just, okay, soak it all in, and don't take anything too seriously that will like say, hey man, if you blow apart, don't, because it's happened, like a lot of times you got to go up on stage with that band with zero rehearsal. You've gotten maybe a little bit of backstage, pounding on a pillow kind of thing while there's a guy jamming, you're working out parts. If something grenades and explodes and falls apart, don't worry about it. Don't let that get into your head. It's like, hey man, I'm up here doing superhuman things, and contrary to popular belief, I am not Superman. So, that's kind of my intent with that sort of thing. So, yeah.
I don't know, dude. I think you're kind of Superman, actually.
You are
So, what's a great thing to do is check out some of the videos on YouTube where people are reacting to Gene's drumming. There's some hysterical. There's a lot of faces, people listening to him going, it's like that. Their mouths are just open, their eyes are white, and so or just bright and wide open. It's hysterical. One thing I know, Gene, is that it's kind of like your brain is like a muscle. You are always exercising it. The more that you're learning tunes and have to learn tunes right away, you just are faster at remembering just in general. So you've really evolved and that skill. I mean, I think you have that gift, but I think that you've worked your ass off on it too. And so it's an incredible thing to see.
That's pretty badass. Thank you, brother. That is very cool, And I tell you, one thing that has helped the old brain out over the last couple of years is, during the pandemic, I became a live streaming drummer, / entertainer. I opened up a Twitch channel, and so many times, the majority of my streams are, I'll take requests, and a lot of times those requests are songs I've never heard before, bands I've never heard of, and it's like, that sounds like an interesting band name, and the song title, that's an interesting song title. Let me play that. And you are playing a song for the first time you've ever heard right in front of, dozens upon dozens of people. And that's a real big exercise for your brain, you know. And I've gotten to work on my chops so much by doing these Twitch live streams. It's been a minute since I've had a chance to get back and doing some Twitch, because once the pandemic is over, it went 0 to 1,000 with life and work and all that kind of stuff. But I do long to get back, you know, do some more streams and have some fun with it. But it's it's great for your brain. It's great for your chops. You know, you're learning songs on the fly. That's really fun. Playing along to a song you've never heard before. God, talk about like honing skills, man. That's a fantastic thing. I would suggest it for everybody. No, we lost somebody.
We lost Bart.
He'll be back.
Oh, we lost.
Hey, Gene, you got 24-inch kicks?
Yes.
And why would you choose 24 over 22? I've always wondered.
Because they look badass. Simply that. Yeah. You know, 22s are much easier to play in the whole, especially in the old speedy double bass kind of thing. But
yeah, really.
When you got a big pile of and I set my rack toms rather high, and when you've got this big old gigantic gap underneath those toms that everybody can just kind of see through when you got 22-inch kicks, I just think that looks silly. So it's like 24s because they're big and beefy and mighty and they look cool. That is it.
That's cool, man. I love it.
Gene, I've got a question for you. You know,
Sure,
I have a student who's a big fan of yours, as you know. You made this great connection with my student Max, who's a player.
I love Max. I was going to wear a Max shirt today. Dang,
oh, that's awesome. He would have been
totally iron
stoked.
front. Yeah, man.
He would have been stoked. Anyways, we have this joke that, like, you know, when he's working on something, I say, well, you know, you're at this place here, and if you want to get this thing, you've got to put the time in to get from here to there, which of course he knows. And I said, and we both say at the same time, unless you're Gene Hoglan.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, that's like our little joke, because, like, you know,
that's super fun.
You've made this observation before, you know, that, you know, not being a reader, not working out of books, you're not trying to emulate anybody. And I know I think we're all roughly around the same age. When we all were growing up, there weren't that many resources available to us compared to what there is now, right? In terms of drum video,
absolutely,
how-to explanations and YouTube videos about every single topic about drumming, and all these, you know, videos on detailed analysis of your foot technique and whatnot. And, you know, you do your own thing, and you kind of, like you said, you are the creator of all your own content. You figured your stuff out on your own, right? It just kind of made sense to you. Is that accurate to say?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, oh, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I am definitely, as I'm also from the mindset of, if I can do it, you can do it. You know, anybody, you know, the hypothetical, you like, I am just somebody who I have an intent. Growing up, I had an intense interest in music, and especially the drums. So if you apply that, just your interest level, if this is the thing that you find the most interesting, and you spend a lot of time just even, you know, thinking about it and being immersed in any concept, chances are you're going to get pretty decent at it. So, or you're going to develop an aptitude for it. And I think that's all it is with me. I definitely do not think anything I do is like superhuman or unattainable by anybody. I try to be attainable, you know, like kind of like Neil Peart from Rush. I mean, he was, for a lot of us little youngins, he was the most technical drummer on the planet. You know, we weren't aware of a lot of the guys that go past that. But when I was growing up, you know, this guy's just so intense and his chops are so amazing. But he was attainable. His style was achievable. And that, you know, you could break down a Neil Peart, you know, entire part. And it's like, I know what the kick drums are doing. I know what the snare. I hear the hi-hats. I get that fill that's coming on there. And I hear what the ride pattern is going to be, that Neil Peart ride pattern, all that kind of thing. If you can understand it, you can apply it. And that's what I figure. I try to make myself very understandable. I try not to play things that are just like, oh my God, that's just so complicated. F this drummer, you know, like it's like, hey man, why not make an iconic part? Yeah, you could take that part and make it so over the top that it confuses people. Why not just lay back on it a little bit and let that little part, like a Neil Peart part, become iconic as opposed to look at what I can do. I can totally boggle your mind. It's like that's just kind of, playing with oneself, kind of,
Right. No, I think that's spot on. But my follow-up question to that, which you sort of pretty much already answered, but maybe you want to say some more about it, is, nowadays,
you're kidding.
nowadays they're all my students, they come to me, not all, some of my students, with internet videos that they're watching, and they're trying to break down this or that, and they easily get overwhelmed, with all the different, they bring in 2 videos that say 2 apparently contradictory things about, pedal technique or whatever it is. And it's hard for them, I think, for younger drummers, because there's so much out there to kind of wade through and figure out what works for them. And, here you are, a shining example of someone who, got to where you are without watching all those videos. Now, I know you could say, oh, well, that's Gene Hoglan, but I think your point is like, well, no, you just worked at it. And again, if you immerse yourself and you put the time in, you'll get good with what works for you. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And that is the most important thing. There are no right answers. There are no wrong answers when it comes to somebody's approach. Do you? I mean, if you want to set your drum set upside down and play it that way, do it. If that's the way that it's the most comfortable for you. And there is that's the only way evolution occurs, is by people trying things that nobody else has tried. Right. And the reason they try those things is because they have, they got the cojones to go, I'm not going to listen to all these naysayers telling me you can't do it this way. You can't do it this way. You can't do that. You can't do this. You have to do this. F all of that. Do what is comfortable for you. And in some way, somewhere, you are going to elevate the entire genre somewhere. That's the way I feel.
That's beautiful.
Hey, Gene, how did you come up with that double slap technique? Can you tell us the story of that? How did that happen?
Yeah, I got out of complete necessity, because I can't. Here you go. Here's an example. I turned a shortcoming into a strength, maybe, because when all those kind of patterns are starting to occur, when it's like, oh, I would say I would get some drum program, something or other. We want, can you play this pattern? And if I were to try to do that, my shortcoming is I cannot do alternating notes easily when how am I explaining? It's if you're trying to do it in an alternating note pattern where you're left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, paradiddle style or something. I'm just like, man, just make it easy on yourself, because you're going to get the same sounds if you just, keep that foot going.
Left, right, right.
And then you just alternate your feet. And then, you do a, you just, and it's the same sound, you're getting the same attack, and you've made it a million times easier on yourself. I mean, all I'm doing is this. Nice. That's it. And then right kind of thing on your right foot. Some people might do it on their left, the right-footed leads, of course, I get that, but it was just out of necessity and ease.
So are you suggesting that you play all singles with your feet?
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's for the most part, that's what I'm doing. I mean, they're like, even say you take a song like by Strapping Young Lad called Skexes, which has a lot of it's got some really crazy drum patterns in it, but for the most part, those are left, right, left, right, left. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, or whatever the number of kick drums I'm playing. Those are all alternating notes. There are no double slaps in that. But if there's like death clock songs where like trying to do that alternating notes and then keep the pattern going straight, it's just easier. Double slap that right foot, same sound, it goes. And yeah, it is for the most part the easiest, simplest, straightest straight line to the end result.
Hey, Gene.
Yeah. Hey,
I think my mic is working now.
I
Yep.
can hear it.
Yeah,
I can
that's
hear
a
it.
beautiful thing. Never give up
Right.
on
Oh, really?
technology. Gene, one thing that
I'm
I've
gonna anoint
I've
you
always loved seeing is sometimes if you're doing a double kick pattern, you'll start with the left foot on
Oh,
the
yeah.
pattern, sometimes on the right foot.
Okay.
And is that a thing that you think through, or is it just you're playing and not really even paying attention to what foot is leading?
Well, it is. I think it is something that is pretty. I'm not saying it's thought out, but it's usually leading a double kick thing works best for my left foot being the lead on most of it. However, I've noticed that when we're doing like a 6/8 that kind of pattern, or 6/24, whatever that time signature is, 12/8, shoot, I don't know. I tend to lead with my right foot on those, because that is putting the boom, 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 the single kick. If you were to take your, boom, 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 it's kind of establishing the right foot as the main, and then you just add the double kick, that kind of thing. That's the best way to explain music, with doodly daddles and flabbergaloo.
Gene, do you have any advice for a student who's struggling with getting speed going with the double bass? Like, do you have a go-to exercise or routine that you do to warm up or work on your speed?
One thing that I've done is leg weights. Absolutely. Like within 7 days, you put leg weights on, you can start with 3 pounds. I am up to 5 pounds because I don't play with boots that much. Usually the boots were 2 pounds, so the leg weights were 3 pounds. Just add 5 pounds to your feet. You can easily start with a 3-pound leg weight on either side. I would always suggest a plate type weight or a bar type weight as opposed to a sandbag, because sandbag weights, you'll see there's a myriad of choices out there. Try to get something with a bar or a flat plate. The flat plates, challenging to find these days, but the individual bars, just they're little bar looking about like that kind of thing. Those work best because they don't shift as much. But you wear a 3-pound weight, and my little speed exercise that I've ever done, this is it. Rick hears me doing this every time I start playing drums, man, from across the hall. It's just single alternating strokes on the legs. I just do double strokes on the hands, and I also use I used to use real big marching corps sticks for my warm-up. Now we've just taped 3 of my drumsticks together, so 6 sticks total, 3 in one hand, 3 in the other, a weighted, and a heavy stick, and then you drop those sticks, you pick up your sticks fly. Same concept, batter's donut concept for the feet, but that is it. And I do double strokes with the heavy sticks or whatever sticks you got, and I just match up my legs, and you can become your own kind of metronome speeder upper, if you like. When you're getting it allows your top half to start aligning with your bottom half, and you figure your top half, most drummers' top half is pretty darn solid, especially if you're just doing double strokes. Those are probably about the easiest rudiment out there next to single. You do them with single strokes if you want, but if you are just keeping that solid tempo, your alternating strokes on your feet, they're going to lock in, the top, the bottom, and then when they're locked in, you speed that up a little bit, and then you speed it up again, and you keep speeding it up. And I'm serious, Bowie, that is the best tiny little exercise to improve speed. Also, I think I can, you could tell yourself, I can do this. I can do this. That's how I got through years and years of drumming. I can do this. That kind of thing.
We missed you, Bart. Welcome back.
Thank you. I thought I pissed off Gene or something, man.
Yeah.
Did I say something? I'm sorry.
Never.
No, man, I don't know what happened. Just everything just went away. So anyway, thank you for missing me, I guess. Hey, Gene. So maybe you answered this already, and I apologize when everything went away.
No worries. I like talking.
What about your hand technique? We've been talking about your feet and your feet speed and everything like that. What about your hand technique? Do you do a lot of? Is it mostly single strokes with your hands, or do you play? I heard you talking about doubles, but do you play mostly single strokes, or is it a lot of combination of singles and doubles?
Oh, it's definitely a combination, and the feet are their own kind of thing, and the hands are influenced by everybody. I say the Neil Peart, the Terry Bozzio, the Sonny Emery, the old Steve Gadd, all those guys. I try to apply those approaches, and that's one thing that has been great for doing the live stream drumming on Twitch is that you're not here to impress anybody. You're here to have some fun. So instead of doing you get to come up with your own patterns for fills. Like you're playing to a request of a well-known song, and instead of playing it exactly like that drummer does, do some double stroke rudimentary kind of things as you're going down the toms on that, just do some fun things and do some paradiddles and all that kind of stuff. So it really just depends on what the song calls for. But one thing I will tell you, since I am a left-handed lead when it comes to the majority of my fills, if you think about the concept, your right hand is usually the one that comes out of those fills with. I usually end the 95% of my fills, I end with a double stroke on the right hand so I could come in on the one with the left.
So, okay. Yeah.
Just because I'm backwards, it's just backwards. So it just makes sense to double up that final note on the right. And there you go.
Yeah. There's your paradiddle. Right, left, right. Boom.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. End it with a paradiddle.
Very cool. I was watching a Dom Fimulero's interview with Tommy Aldridge. I'm a big Aldridge fan.
Same here.
Yeah, man, great drummer. And he talked about how when he was coming up, he would practice paradiddles between right hand, left foot, and left hand, right foot. Do you do any of that sort of stuff, or in your exercises preparing for something?
I can barely do a paradiddle on kick drums, and like okay, up down. Yeah, man, that's I got to admit I don't practice. I definitely don't practice enough over the past 35 whatever years. I do not practice drums enough because drums themselves have kind of become this sort of cardio routine for myself. I get the cardio out of the drums more than I do the actual, let me work on some licks. And from time to time, especially when I do get downtime, there's a lot less of that than I would wish for. But like the other day when I came in to rehearse for this gig that I had this weekend, I took the majority of that day and I just set the metronome at 134 and just tried to come up with wackadoodle kind of things, that just, I wasn't trying to do cardio. I was actually trying to get somewhat creative and just stay solid with the click. But I had some fun with the drums, and I don't get to have a lot of fun with them, because usually it's like, oh, you got to work out this project, you got to work on this song, that kind of thing. So,
I want to talk about the gig this weekend. Gene played at the San Diego Heavy Metal Swap Meet over the weekend, and it was just Gene playing along to tracks.
Cool.
And it was fantastic. You played to Death and Dark Angel and Death Clock and Strapping Young Lad, and
that's right.
And it was just Gene with tracks. And you know what? It was a big crowd, like a huge crowd. Everybody was totally getting into it. Gene didn't even need a band in front of him. It was fantastic. It was just
nice.
Oh, believe me, it's giving me ideas. Oh my God, David!
It's a lot less expensive to tour this.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Fewer mouths to feed.
I essentially
and you can get all the green M&Ms to yourself.
Darn tooth, man. Brown ones. I just ran it essentially like a clinic with a lot less talking. I had an hour to do, I don't know, 12, 13 songs or something like that. So I kept the talking to a minimum. Usually if I do a clinic, I'm a babbling fool, man. But it was nice because it was more of a gig that, it's like you can't rely on this or your lethargy, Gene, because that's the whole reason why I talk so much during clinics, because I'm lazy. If I could babble my way through an hour and a half as opposed to playing drums for an hour and a half. So it was nice to be forced to play drums, just song after song after song after song, and then quick little chat, back to the songs, big groups of songs. That was really, really fun. And so, yeah, man, I'm not averse to doing more shows like that. But we definitely had a real good time.
When you do clinics, do you have like a topic of choice?
No, I wing.
You're free
everything. I wing from minute 1 to minute 120.
Wow.
Yeah, man, I wing it all. And I let the audience kind of gauge it, and I'll tell people right out the gate that, hey, man, I obviously I'm not passing out, sheet music or anything. That's not going to happen here. I have no idea what you might learn here, but there are no question and answer blocks. If you got a question, raise your hand, I'll answer it. We just try to make them really fun, really engaging, really entertaining. So it's kind of like a spoken word with some drums, a stand-up routine,
right
with some drums getting played.
Nice. Hey, Gene, out of all the recordings you've done with all the bands, is there a favorite song you have to play? Do you have like a couple favorites that you can tell us that, yes, on this song I really defined myself or really enjoyed myself?
Good question.
Well, that is a great question. I'm fortunate that I've got kind of a bit of an answer for that, because that would be kind of like a stumper. But since the song is pretty fresh in my brain from over the weekend, there's a song by Strapping Young Lad called Skeksis that, man, that is just a super duper fun song to play. It's a drum song. Unlike any other drum song on the planet. I'll fully take a Pepsi challenge with anybody. It's a heavy metal song. Unlike any other heavy metal song on the planet. This is a singular sounding song. There's only one Skeksis in the world. There's nothing else that can compare to this song as a song. So that's pretty darn fun. I mean, that's a great song. And, I'm sure there's some Death Clock songs that are pretty darn fun. And boy, I tell you, I had a band, a very, very tiny band from Vancouver called the Almighty Punch Drunk. You can't even find their music on Spotify or iTunes or anything. You'd have to go to YouTube. But that entire album, it's only like, it's a 16-song album. It's maybe 29 minutes long, something like that, 30 minutes long. But that entire album is a super duper blast, So some of my favorite songs that I have to play are songs I have yet to record. And that's things like with my wife, Laura. I love our music. We haven't had a chance to release or record any of it yet, but that's kind of my favorite drumming, and there's also that project that I, can't talk too much about, but
secret.
There's a super duper amount of like, wow, I really love playing drums on that song. I love playing drums on that song. It is an album that will absolutely run the gamut in terms of drums, intensity to beauty. It will encapsulate all of those. And like I say, that thing comes out in late 2023, 2024 kind of thing, but and that'll be the one. That's the one I was talking about a year and a half ago. This album now.
So those of you who don't know, so Gene and I are married to musician sisters, two of the most incredible, wonderfully talented and beautiful women in the world. And
darn too.
Gene's wife, my sister-in-law, Laura Christine, is the ultimate guitar shredder. And I know you're working with her in Dark Angel now.
That's right.
Yep. So you can see, I know there's going to be more dates in 2020 for Dark Angel.
In 2023, absolutely. Yeah, man. She's been kind enough to help us through certain gigs where our founding guitarist, Mr. Jim Durkin, it's kind of built into our system. He told us very early on, he's like, guys, you know that there's gonna be times when I can't make every single show or every single run. So, and we were fortunate to be able to get a good 8 years out of touring from Jim. But Jim has let us know, like, hey man, it's now that thing I talked about way back when, it's going to start occurring a little bit more. So he was the one, he went right to Laura and said, I want you to replace me.
Yeah.
She's looking at me like, wait, what? You know, did you guys talk about this? I'm like, this is a surprise to me too, baby. So it's worked out great. Absolutely.
And Laura's also sat in with you for live Death Clock shows.
That's right. She's also joined us on stage with old Death Clock, and now that just makes the band sound awesome. Having 3 guitarists across the front,
power.
That really thickens up everything. Let me tell you.
Yeah, and Zimmer's Hole too. Laura's played
Darn
on
tootin'.
that
Yeah,
too.
man, we've done some Zimmer's Hole. That's one of my more underground bands, but that's Zimmer's Hole, kick-ass metal band. Out of the ashes of Strapping Young Lad, 3 of the members of Strapping with Zimmer's Hole. Pretty darn killer music. Absolutely.
Yes, and then
Gene,
it's just going to be so exciting to hear the music with you and Laura that you're creating. I get to
know,
hear
right?
it in rehearsal. And,
Yeah.
and when Gene's out on the road, my wife Julia subs on drums in rehearsal for Gene.
That's pretty awesome.
Wow.
Those are very, very big shoes to fill, and my wife Julia just does it. She's got the fastest double kicks. It's just
I
so
love
great to see.
bragging about Julia's feet. I tell everybody, it's like her feet destroy mine. And they're like scratching their head like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, I'm not kidding, man. Her feet destroy mine.
Rick, we need to get Julia on as a guest on the
Right,
deck.
man. Exactly.
hear
Why
it.
you
I know.
holding out here, man? Come
Yeah,
You
on.
hear
man,
that,
totally.
Julia? It would be so fun.
That is pretty darn fun.
Yeah.
Gene, I got a question. Judging by what you're talking about, like doing this gig this last weekend and everything like that, do people just reach out to you that you don't know, that maybe aren't like a named metal act or on a record label or working with a big record label, and hey, we want to hire you to play on our record, and you work within their budget? Or how do you do that? What do you
That happens all the
do
time.
you do that stuff? Do you do that stuff?
I am not averse to it. Usually, like I get requests all the time. My management gets requests all the time, and usually they're shut down pretty darn quick when they hear the budget. You know, when they hear my price. I freely admit I am ball crushingly expensive. And I value myself. I honor myself, and I know what I am to our scene. I know what I am to the drumming community. So it's like, that's why it's like my management is like, dude, you're the easiest guy to book, because I quote your price, and it's usually like, ooh, that's our entire budget. Can we hire him for one song? I do that sort of thing all the time. And the people that come through, they're like, okay, we know the budget. Give us 6 months. We're going to get that, because we do want Gene, and we'll come back to you in 6 months. A lot of times that happens too.
I really respect that. And I generally feel that the drumming community and the musician community in general devalues itself all the time
100%, Rick.
by stop taking $100 gigs. If you can play drums, stop it. Ask for more. You're getting the same rate that you were in the 70s. So,
you
know,
the
people who pay us say, oh, you're playing, and they're not looking at what's involved in getting this all together. So,
I watched a video this morning with Matt Starr, and you know, I kind of have stuff running in the background all the time while I'm doing work as motivational stuff, podcast. Rick, you and I have talked about that. Yep. And he's talking about how, you know, there's musicians out there who do the opposite of what you said, Gene. They just want the gig so bad. They don't have a value for themselves. And so they're like, I don't care about money. I don't, you know, that doesn't matter to me. I just want to create. No, man, that's a load, because you have to value yourself. We all spend so much time right here in the corner behind a drum set, staring at a wall, staring at a book, practicing. I know what my time's worth. I will work within the budget of a recording session or a gig, but $100 not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And I think that's wonderful, Gene. What would you say to somebody? What advice would you give to somebody that doesn't know how to value their time or their ability, and they can play? What would you say to somebody like that that's been playing for a while, Gene? What would your advice be?
Excuse me, wrong tube, boy. Wrong
You
tube
need some
swallowing.
Ricola, brother.
Yeah, no, I got I got my little. That's what did it. My little Ultima there. Well, I tell you,
He's got this.
because I definitely come from the background of money is not important. You know, your joy is important. You know, honing your craft and doing what you love is important. Let me tell you, brutal, extreme thrash metal in the mid 80s, that was not the style of music to choose to become rich and famous at. So, but that was the kind of music that it chose me. So there wasn't ever a lot of money back in those days, but it taught me resilience. And, you know, I mean, you got to rely on yourself. My survival skills are on point, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where it's like, hey, man, you do realize that things that you are doing are mattering. And things like a lot of the things that I did that helped form and shape extreme drumming, yeah, there was no money in it, and it wasn't about money. But there's nothing wrong in reaping the reward of some of the templates that you created. Darn tootin'. You're like, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
like, that's the way it's gonna be, you know. It's like without this, and this, you don't have a certain large backlog of approaches. So I'm responsible for those. So my cred is what it is. And you know, I'm not, I try to approach this with humility, but you also have to approach it with your own survivability. You know, like I love doing projects for my friends. You know, like, man, sure, you need that. It's going to take me exactly 2 hours to record that thing. So let me bash that out for you. I love doing stuff like that because things like that help the soul. They help the mind and the soul when you're helping somebody out. I love doing stuff like that. But also, if you're hiring me, boy, it's just kind of a statement of fact that, you know, dig deep.
Right.
That's just the way
Gene,
it is.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you're an up and coming younger drummer and you're considering a career as a musician, what advice would you give them?
Don't be afraid to jump deep into the deep end. Like that is what I did. There was, you know, like college, you know, university, school of hard knocks for me.
Yep.
I was so involved. This was the only thing I wanted to do. I was obsessive with doing music. And if that meant sacrifice, yes, it did. I did it. If that meant being broke for years upon years, but you're doing what your heart loves and you're creating an impact in the musical scene, so be it. Yeah, you know, I know how to live in a truck. You know, I know how to live in the cab of a car. You know, don't be afraid to try everything, and, you know, align yourself with like-minded people. You start to know, like, you know, your inner sense of how to judge character in other people. You know, is this person just using me, or is this person actually got the same mindset I do on this? You find all that stuff out when you're really young. But if you're being safe and you're just kind of dabbling in it a little bit, but, you know, hey man, I understand having rent, you know, having mortgage or whatever. I didn't go that route. I'm like, shoot, man, I'm going to figure out how to I'm going to couch surf. I'm going to travel. I'm going to figure out how to make myself become a viable commodity in this industry by diving in and just letting the waters take you wherever they take you. And you develop some street smarts in that regard. But as for, you know, my dad used to tell me all the time when I was young, he's like, because I could have gone into professional baseball, and my dad was really hoping for that. And he was like, hey man, how about you You go into pro ball for till you're 30, retire a multi-millionaire, then you do your musical stuff. I'm like, oh God, Dad, it doesn't work that way, man. Yeah, but look at these guys. They got rock bands. You know, the first baseman for the San Diego Padres has a rock band. I'm like, oh God, Dad, come on, man, you're killing me. But yeah, so it's like you make your choice, and when your choice is you win all the time. You know,
There
and
it
so
is.
Yeah,
choose yourself.
you
That's
said
beautiful.
something that I have to Gene, I have to echo what you said. One of my favorite things is that you are your own best commodity. You know, I tell that to my drum students all the time, that you know, you are your best commodity. And let's, you know, the guy sitting right there beside you, Rick Stojak, I always like to point, you know, to him, because the guy's like this little positive energy hand grenade that goes off everywhere he goes.
Absolutely.
All of us here are published authors, and we all have our books that we're selling and stuff. Rick is so good at being his own best commodity, and he's kind of like the due north. Look at his studio that you guys are sitting in. Look at the books that he's written. Just
Right.
everything is he's a great commodity to himself, you know. And
Right.
and I think that and I have to say that about everybody here on deck. We are, and I'm just kind of echoing what you've said, because you have to believe in yourself, you know, and that I think I can. We all get drum parts where you're like, I don't know if I can play this. Well, if you sit down and you beat on that thing long enough, you'll be able to do it. So
Guaranteed.
anyway, thank you for saying that, because I think that's so important. A lot of young drummers don't think that way. They don't think that way. You know, they take the safe route, of the route of least resistance.
And Gene, I just want to comment as we're wrapping up here on your, you know, beautiful humility, and also, you know, positivity and sense of self-worth and purpose. And, you know, I love that you and Rick are brothers-in-law, because you're both got this just beautiful energy about you, and you're so positive, and you guys are role models for the drumming community in general. And thanks for coming on our show again.
Ah, well, I sure do appreciate it, gentlemen. Hey, man, Rick is a role model for me. Let me tell you.
Wow.
Absolutely. You know, big time, huge
You guys
time.
are all just so sweet. I tell you what, the first time I met Gene, it was a club, and I think it was a birthday party at a club, and it was a drinking environment, you know, and at the bar, and I saw Gene up at the bar and went, wow, this guy is larger than life, and he's just seems so cool. He didn't even know me, and he's like, hey man, can I buy you a round? No, didn't even know me, and I was like, God, this guy is so friendly. So then when I found out that my sister-in-law was dating Gene Hoglan, they worked together on a session up in Toronto for Michelle Meldrum. In Vancouver. Yep, not Toronto, Vancouver. And then when I found out they were dating, I thought that was really exciting. And that is a little bit, honestly, intimidating. Because picture you're an actor, right? And then you're making a living as an actor. And then suddenly Tom Cruise comes into the family. Right. And this iconic name, you know, who gets a lot of attention. And you know what? It's been the best thing that's ever happened, because Gene is just the sweetest guy in the world. And and it's inspirational. That's what it is. So don't ever be intimidated by anybody, and just, you know, befriend them and learn from each other. And you know, one of the reasons why I'm so happy, man, having a brother-in-law like this.
Right on, brother.
You know, right on.
It's Thanksgiving, and Gene and I get to talk about bass drum technique
and drumsticks of all kinds.
I was going to say, do you fight over the drumstick?
You know, we're both so different, and we're both so the same in so many aspects of drumming. And I think that we're both this way. We just try to learn from each other and share experiences.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And you know, I tell you, that is one thing that I always try not to be, is intimidating.
Yeah.
I never want to intimidate anybody, like, ever. Like, I know I got the shades, I look tough in the pictures and all that stuff. That's the image of toughness and metal and all that stuff. And yeah, I could be a badass if I have to be. But if we're in a friendly environment, that's why I always like, so many drummers tell me like, "Oh my God, when I found out you were coming to the show, you know, like, oh my God." I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do to anybody, man. I want that to inspire you and pump you up, but
Right.
I don't want to scare anybody. That's why I try to be really just approachable, you know,
Well,
at,
you are.
at
You
these
are.
shows.
You know,
I don't like
and I want to
scaring
bring
people.
up. Oh, I'm sorry, Gene.
No, go ahead.
And I want to bring up a topic also too about styles. You know, many people can be intimidated by death metal, dark metal, thrash, metal in general. They kind of make an assumption about the style and the people that play it, and they have this attitude that they may be not nice people, or they're just mean. And it's nothing but, man, the metal scene and guys like Gene, every single band member I've ever met who Gene has played with are just like the sweetest people, family men, just you know, and women, just like the nicest people you've ever met. So you know, don't be judgmental is my thought about that. It's just like an actor. If you see an actor, you know, doing something on film, they're acting. It's not, you know, Gene and I'd say his whole scene are the sweetest people of any scene that I've ever seen.
Excellent.
Yep.
That's very cool.
Very cool.
Hey,
Well,
Bart.
since we're wrapping up, I'm going to throw it to Jeremy
Oh,
Steinkohler,
no.
Steamroller.
who is, I'll give you a drum roll, who's the winner of the head package today.
Oh man. Let's see. So in case you guys don't know, we are in part sponsored
100th
by
episode.
100th episode, in part sponsored by Aquarian Drumheads, of which we're all endorsers. And Aquarian has generously gifted us a set of drum heads to give away today to one of our lucky listeners. So we thank Aquarian for their support. And before we give them away, I'll mention also that on November 12th, coming up next month, we are having our first ever live event. It's called Deck Day, and it's going to be at the Aquarian Drumheads facility in Orange, California. And we're going to have an afternoon of drum clinics from all four of us. There's going to be product demos, tons of stuff we're giving away from all of our sponsors. We've got like over a dozen companies sponsoring the event. We're going to be giving raffles, prizes, product demos, a tour of the Aquarian facility, and of course, 4 terrific educational clinics by each of us. So
I got
we
some
hope to see
cool
you guys
Gretsch
there.
shirts to give away. I'm a Gretsch guy, been with them for years, so we've got some cool Gretsch swag to give away. It'll be
You
fun.
can get your tickets at our website. It's drummersedcon.com. That's drummersedcon.com. It's $40 to come to the clinic live. It's $20 you can stream it online. You won't be able to win any prizes, but you can get all the educational stuff. So
Yeah. And shout out to Sabian Cymbals and Chris Stanky. They have given us a grand prize to give away, a Sabian Ozone Crash.
Wow.
Ozone
There's
Crash.
a ton of stuff we're giving away. So
Yeah,
check
it's
that out. Chip is going to put the link to buy the tickets in the chat. And I'm just going to randomly pick a winner today from our list of commenters.
they do have to be from the United States, though, right? They do have to
That's
be
true.
from the
So
United
I'll
States.
call your name, and you're not in the U.S. Let us know, and we'll pick someone else. It's going to be Brandon DeVoe.
Brandon DeVoe.
Brandon DeVoe.
Brandon DeVoe.
Brandon,
Are you from the? Are you from in the United States, Brandon?
Yeah, he's from the East Coast. I'm good friends
Yeah?
with Brandon.
All right,
Yeah,
there you go.
Look at that. What a
Oh,
team,
you're
people.
what? Did you say
Brandon-
you're related to Brandon?
well, he is one of my atomic cult from my Twitch stream. Hey, Brandon, how are you, brother?
Look
Great to
at
see you, my man.
that.
Yeah, man. So he is. That's how we have met. You know, through my Twitch stream. So yeah, man.
Very
Brandon.
cool, man.
Very cool,
Brandon,
man.
Congratulations, bro. You got a new set of heads for batter heads for your entire kit. We'll get you in touch with Chris Brady.
But he's a guitarist.
What'd you say?
But he's a guitarist.
Oh, he's a guitarist.
He's a guitarist. Oh, that's a
Brandon,
Well-
if you need drum lessons, you have drum heads.
That's
Right.
right.
Here's 4
You can
drum
re-
teachers.
You can reach out to all of us.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what we got to do. We got to do a deck. We already did the online lesson show, but we got to do like where we all teach the same thing or something silly like that. Yeah, it'd be fun.
That would be fun.
Really fun.
Hey,
Yeah,
everybody.
talk about contradictory advice.
Exactly. Whatever Jeremy said, don't listen to him.
Uh,
Don't listen to that
That's
guy.
funny.
Everybody, thank you for supporting us. through
Yes.
100 episodes.
100 shows,
of
man. This is huge.
Thank you,
This
Gene.
is awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Gene, thanks so much, man.
Oh, you guys are so welcome.
It's always nice to talk to you. This is your second time on deck, and we kind of feel like we know you a little bit. So
Don't you?
you know, this is very cool. Thanks so much, man. Really
Well,
appreciate it.
Gentlemen, congratulations again on 100, and here's to another 10,000.
Yeah.
Episodes.
There you
Wow.
go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
May it
Thanks,
continue to just be a wonderful success for everybody. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thanks, pal.
Awesome.
So, Brandon, just shoot Bart. Bart, how can he get in touch with you?
Yeah, Brandon, find me just Bart Robley. Go to my Facebook, send me a friend's request, unless you don't want to be my friend. I mean, I'm cool with that too. But just send me a DM, and then I'll get you in touch with Chris over at Aquarian, and we'll get you hooked up, and then maybe Gene will buy you a drum set or something. I don't know, since you're a guitar player. I'm joking. Gene, I did not just commit you to buying a drum set, bro. Just let you know, I didn't do that.
Well, hey, Rick's got these really kick-ass little Simmons kits here for $350.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? Exactly. So
All
yeah,
right.
so Brandon, just send me a DM and we'll get you hooked up, bro.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank
We'll be back.
you.
Everybody,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Gene. We love you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks
we love
for
you.
Gene,
supporting
you're
us.
the best, Rick. The positive energy hand grenade.
Oh,
He's
That's
working his
awesome.
way up to the positive energy landmine.
That's great.
wow. There we
Uh-oh,
go.
I'm going to drop that stick. I'm no chip ritter.
Uh-oh.
I'm trying.